It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 4th day of August 2020, coming to you from Forest in Bedford County, Central Virginia, right near Lynchburg. We have finally some nice weather outside as all of our weather has moved on now. Not that way for a lot of you folks out there as we get started today. Most of the weather that we had here, as far as the farm goes, we were part of the front, the cold front that moved in and joined up with Tropical Storm Isaias. Come on, tongue. Isaias. Having trouble saying it this morning. But anyway, we were mostly from the cold front. So we had some rain and thunderstorms yesterday and during the night last night. And actually the tropical end of it, I don't think got this far inland. As an update on ACs. Jim Cantori will be upset with me that I still haven't learned how to say this stupid word yet. Isaias. There we go. But anyway, an update on that. You know, it was a lot better in Florida than we anticipated it being. It stayed off the coast. There was some rain and some wind, but it was a whole lot better than it could have been. One of the problems, and I have not been able to get some good information back on it yet this morning, was what happened in the Bahamas, because when it slowed down after it crossed over and started going through the southern and central Bahamas, and it started just creeping along as it was heading toward Florida. The biggest part of the storm was in that upper right-hand quadrant that was dumping just tons of rain and wind on the Bahamas, like Grand Bahama Island and Abaco and the places that are still, you know, was devastated from Dorian last year. They had a lot of evacuations from that area, and I've tried to find out about damages and so forth, and there's been very little information coming out of the Bahamas yet. So I don't know how bad or it got over there, but they took in an awful lot of rain. Then it did a lot better for Florida than we thought. And then started up the East Coast, and during the night last night, it had landfall actually into North Carolina. And then it started speeding up, and man, it's just flying north now. Now you guys are still from Washington on up, you know, Philadelphia and New York, just basically up the 95 corridor. You're going to have to deal with it through the day to day, possibly even into New England tonight, and then into Canada. But man, this thing is motoring now. So if any of you were involved in any way, leave a comment. I did talk to our friend Tom over in Richmond earlier today to see how things went over there, and basically he thought it was a little less wind than he was thinking, but there was quite a bit of course, rain. But he's fine. I haven't heard anything from Bonnie yet down in Florida. I haven't heard it from many of our Florida folks. Let's see. Amy's is with us. Hello, Amy. Cindy's with us from Dallas. Sonny's with us from down Mississippi. Emily's here from up in New York. You're probably going to get smacked up there, Em. Let us know how that goes. Sonny says she loves saying Isaias. There we go. I don't know why I'm trying. There's Tom. Tom's with us. Nikki says in Jacksonville, they had a light shower and no wind, had to put more water in the pool since we didn't get the rain. Yeah, well, I had to actually let a little water out of my pool this morning. So we had enough rain to at least do that yesterday and during the night. So I went out first light this morning and let a little bit out so it wouldn't, in case we got any more. But it's really been very, very little here so far today. So, so much for the, and it was a hurricane, then it dropped down to a tropical storm. Then during the night last night, it strengthened back to a hurricane. And now, of course, once it got inland, it's dropped back to a tropical storm again. So we have had that much is that it, became a hurricane twice. But anyway, it's going to be gone by tonight. You guys still have a big wind day ahead up through the east coast of the United States. And a lot of rain, tons of rain, but then it's going to be gone. It's going to go up into Canada and surely will break up by then. But anyway, so much for the tropical situation. The only other thing that's out there today is a low pressure system that is 330 miles, I believe, is the last update, 300 miles southwest of Bermuda. But there's a ton of dry air around it, and it's not likely to develop any further. And then I'll check the 11 o'clock advisory on Isaias. Wow. My brains is not working this morning on that storm to see if they changed anything at 11 a.m. And it's, by the way, currently it's moved it up to 35 miles an hour now. Sustained winds at 70. Central pressure is 993. So she's located now, that looks to me like probably past Baltimore. I'm just guessing from this little map. But anyway, it looks like it may be out of Virginia now. Of course, we'll still get some tail winds behind it. Let's see, widespread sustained tropical storm force winds are expected along the mid-Atlantic coast today. That's pretty much the same advisory as they've had up all along. The other thing that was interesting is there have been numerous tornadoes that have occurred over portions of the mid-Atlantic coast this morning. The threat of tornadoes will continue along the mid-Atlantic coast, spread into New England this afternoon. So that's what's happening with the storm. So it's going to be gone. All right. Now we get to from what was actually has turned out to be better news than it could have been to some news that's not so good, folks. And I really don't want to talk about this, but I don't have any choice. And that's the situation with Hurtigruten up in Norway. And I have to thank our friend Brenda, etc., that's in Norway, has been literally my eyes and ears on the ground up there since this thing broke on Saturday. And shortly after we were on the air Saturday, there was a press conference held in Norway, and Brenda got the information and sent it to me on that, and has kept me posted with everything she's heard about what's happening up there so far. And actually, basically, here's what we know. A Norwegian cruise ship line halted all trips and apologized yesterday for procedural errors after an outbreak of COVID-19 on one ship infected at least 5 passengers and 36 crew members. Health authorities fear the ship could have infected dozens of towns and villages along Norway's western coast. The 41 people on the MS Roald Amundsen, who tested positive, have been admitted to University Hospital of North Norway, where the ship is currently docked. Basically, there was a failure of some of their internal procedures, the CEO of Hurtigruten said. So they, of course, have been in contact with all of the passengers who were on either the July 17th or the July 25th sailings to let them know about it and to request that they be tested and so forth. All 158 crew members on board the Edmondson have been tested. 122 were negative. It still has not been clarified as to actually the original folks that were sick and reportedly without COVID-19 symptoms. And then they found out that they were positive when they took them to the hospital. But it's not known for sure which came first. Of course, Jim Walker had reported that they knew about it and then didn't report it. And the information that I've gotten still, while it's contradictory from the standpoint that Hurtigruten is admitting some responsibility on this, it's not, I don't believe to be that it was totally the company's fault. However, there were some procedures that were not followed. Now, what does it mean? Well, it's a blow to all of us that are hoping to get cruising going again. Simply because the one thing that we didn't need was another problem with the ship. And this, of course, if it could have been avoided, is a terrific blow. Now, at the same time this was going on, the out in French Polynesia, you had a Paul Gauguin cruise, which has one case of COVID-19 aboard its cruise ship. Now, this is according to reports that came out of French Polynesia. The ship was docked in Papeete, where all passengers and crew were expected to be tested. The current sailing is also said to be canceled, according to local reports. The company had relaunched operations in July with a cruise for local residents and was sailing its second voyage that was open to some international guests. And one of the reports I had was the person that was infected was an American citizen. So we had two ships that have started early, two ships that have had problems. That's not going to help us in the long run for everything that's going on. Now, while this was all happening, Aida, which is part of Carnival owns Aida, which is a German-based line. They had planned on a couple cruises on August the 5th and August the 12th by two of the Aida ships, which were primarily going to be sea days only. They were going to sail out of Hamburg and Warnemünde. Aida said that contrary to its expectations, it has not had the final approval for the sailings from Italy, where the ships were flagged. So they have not gotten approval, which is why they backed off on the cancellation. Now, some of the information that I've got from coming out of Europe, the Hurtigruten cruise was one that Royal Caribbean was following closely, and that was kind of test waters for Royal Caribbean. The Aida cruises were going to be test waters for Carnival. Well, they've obviously both had problems, as has the situation with Paul Gauguin out in French Polynesia. So these things having problems at this point, folks, are going to cause us more delays before we ever get back to cruising the way we all want to go, I'm afraid. There haven't been any other changes as far as the schedule goes. I know, like, our friend Jason is still looking at sailing the first week in October. And I hope somehow they come up with a way of doing it. But boy, I tell you what, I'm just wondering if the CDC is going to approve anything right now until something happens. Now, let's balance that with some good news for a change on something that I was really not aware of at all, and that is an outfit called the Uncruise, which is a small line. And there was a great article that was written by Colleen McDonald over at Cruise Critic. For the first time since COVID-19 pandemic essentially shut down cruising worldwide, a U.S.-based cruise ship set sail from Alaska over the weekend. The Uncruise Adventures, a small expedition cruise line that focuses on intimate sailings that put passengers close to the action, will send Wilderness Adventure on its first cruise of the year, a round trip from Juneau. While the ship can hold 60 passengers, only 37 will be on the first journey. 4 additional cruises are scheduled for the ship as the traditional Alaska cruise season has something happening. Now, one of the things that these folks do, or that they are doing on this, they're not normally go into some of the major areas like Skagway and Ketchikan. They're instead of having ports like that, they are sending cruise passengers out on little Zodiac little boats to get close to nature and explore some things close by in Glacier Bay National Park. So it's becoming more of an environmental kind of thing. But at least they're sailing. Now, folks, I know absolutely nothing about the company. I have absolutely no idea how expensive it is. I imagine it's pretty stout. But it is something that sailed, and they're a United States vessel. And it was something going on in Alaska, which, I mean, those poor people have lost the whole season this year. So that happened over the weekend. So I have not heard anything back from them since. But anyway, that's at least some interesting news for change. Okay. I'm going to pause a second here for a word from Scootaround.
Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scootaround. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scootaround for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise.
All right. One other thing before we go up and start looking at comments. Most of you know that I did a Chillie chat with our friend Rona Nicholson from Scotland. She spent the last 2 weekends in Liverpool, and I did a little Chillie chat with her, which was very well received and has gotten a lot of views and a lot of comments. And Rona did just a really nice job, which I do appreciate. If you haven't seen it, there'll be a link down here in my in the comments for this. Go look at it. It's well worth checking out. Rona did a nice job and had fun in Glasgow, and I was glad to be able to do a chat. And that's something that I want to do more of with you guys. So, but anyway, check it out. But while I had her on the line, of course, I asked Rona about her favorite cruise ship.
That is going to be almost impossible to answer, Chillie, because I've actually just enjoyed all of them. I'm quite new to cruising, so I've only been on 4 ships. I've been on the Holland America New Amsterdam. The other ones were Norwegian ones, Getaway, Breakaway, and Joy. It's impossible, I think, to pick a favourite, but I was fortunate enough to do the Joy in March, just before everything went belly up, and I particularly enjoyed the observation lounge. So relaxing, so many nice places to sit. I could actually just have sat there for a full week. And an added attraction for me was, of course, the Cavern Club. So I was there on all the nights when the shows were on. So I might be leaning a little bit towards the Joy as a favourite ship just because of those two things.
And of course, I asked her about her favorite port of call.
Again, I don't think I've got a particularly favourite port of call, but I have enjoyed all the Mexican ports that I've done. I've done some in the East Coast and I did some on the West Coast last time. Couldn't pick a particular favourite, but I would go with the Mexican ports because I found the people to be extremely friendly and it just had a really good vibe to it. So I'm a Mexico fan, yeah.
All right, Rona, thanks so much. I enjoyed doing our little chat. You did a wonderful job, and I so appreciate it. All right, let's go up and see what we've got in the way of chats today. Let's see. We got started here. Where were we? Pete wants to know what's the storm called. Isaias. Pete. Isaias. And I'm probably still saying it wrong. Isaias. I don't know. I'm sick and tired of this thing. Let's get the hell out of here. All right. Let's see. Sunny says she hopes everybody's safe from the hurricane. We got a small thunderstorm and rain last night. Emily says, no, what you had last night was probably came across from the west to east. You're going to get some, you probably by now, you're probably getting some rain moving in now up there. Yeah. Tom says, let's move on to the next storm. What's its name? Is it a female since Isaias was a male? Cantori was giving me hell. I said, damn, Jim, just name the things Bob and Ralph and something that dummies like me could pronounce. Of course, Jim has nothing to do with naming them either. So, Isaias. Sonny says, Isaias. That's it. Sonny's got it. Isaias. All right. Tom says, are the Encore and Blintz going to dry dock or wet dock in Sweden? The port they are going to is across the water from Copenhagen. How are the NCL ships doing with the HVSC system upgrades promised? Good question. I haven't heard a thing about that, Tom. Not a thing. And Tom says it's mostly sunny in Richmond now. It's sunny, bright and sunny here too. Of course, I'm a couple hours west of Tom, so we actually cleared out here before it cleared out of Richmond area. So, Emily says she heard that NCL already put the HVAC in their ships. All right. Amy says, I don't understand why they only tested crew instead of the passengers before letting them on the ship. They now say that one of the passengers from the previous cruise was the suspected carrier. Again, there's been some misinformation on this whole thing, Amy. If you're referring to Norway, which is why I appreciate so much what Brenda's been doing as far as getting information from over there. my understanding is that there were 4 crew members initially that got sick with non-COVID symptoms. They didn't suspect it at all. Supposedly, it was my understanding that they had all been tested before they boarded the ship and were negative. Then when they got sick, they decided to take them to the hospital to try to figure out what was wrong with them. And that's where they tested positive. That's my understanding of what happened. In the meantime, of course, the passengers had gotten off. They had gotten off on stops and had gotten off the ship. And then when they found out they were positive and started testing and tracking and tracing, they found out a lot more crew members positive, and that's added up to the numbers. And now some of the passengers are testing positive as well. Now, did they know it beforehand? I don't know. That part of it they've not admitted to yet. The situation with Paul Gauguin out in French Polynesia was supposedly that was an American on board that was positive. Now, and I don't know if he was asymptomatic or not. Nobody wants to be truthful on this situation. I think everybody realizes how bad this is looking on the industry right now. Tom Henry says the crew was let on the ship prior to test results being returned. Same old problem as Ruby Princess in Australia. Have they not learned anything? Well, that's a good point. And the guidelines and stuff, if they come up with them, these people got to follow them. If they have a plan and it's accepted, then they have to follow this thing. That was just like in the United States, the plan to start opening the economy that the administration put out was a good plan if people had followed it. Where I think the administration fell down is the very next day they let some of the governors say, well, we're not going to ignore that and we're going to go on and open and not follow the guidelines. And that's led to the problems in Texas and the problems in Florida, where they did not meet the guidelines that were set out on how to do it. The cruise industry's got to do better than that, or we'll never get started again. Pete says, hello, everyone. Sorry, just had a phone call. So back on now. I hope all are okay. Well, we'll let you answer the phone. Very bad news with the startup of cruising again. Really gutted, to be honest. I think this, in the long run, this could be a terrible blow to what all of us want to see happen. Tom Henry's another one that has one still scheduled. He's thinking November 29th will be a bust, so book tours on the Scandinavian cruise next June. Tallinn, Stockholm, Berlin, St. Petersburg, and Helsinki. Tom, I think, as much as I hope you guys get to go, I'm afraid you're not. It ain't gonna happen. Jason said on TWB last night he is still thinking his October cruise will go. He said that. I talked to him a couple days ago, and he still thinks it will. There's Jason. Yes, he says he still thinks it's going. I hope you're right, my friend. I really do. I hope Florida gets to the point that you can, fly down there and fly home. Florida. Yeah, it's Florida. It's out of Miami, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, I hope it happens. I hope they don't, stop the airlines from flying back like New York has. I don't blame New York for doing it either, but we're just going to have to see. So, Amy, 2 Aida cruises were canceled because 2 ships were flagged in Italy. It was not agreed to restart cruising yet. Their August 15th cruise still on is flagged in Germany. That was one thing that came out of this that I was not aware of, that there had to be approval from the flagged country. And I guess it makes sense because those, there's reasons why they're flagged from different countries to start with. But yeah, I had no idea that like the cruises in Germany on Aida Aida ships were flagged in Italy, and Italy's got to approve the cruises in Germany, even though it's got nothing to do with cruising in Italy. So yeah, I realized that was why they were canceled. But we'll just, we'll have to see if they get it approved. Miracle virus vaccine to be announced on November 1st, just in time to go on a cruise. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, that would be outstanding, Tom. Emily says, Chillie Falls, you went to the dentist. How are you feeling today? Oh, hell, I'm fine. I was fine when I got, I got home, and it took I was in a chair for a couple hours, and it only did half my mouth. So they numbed me up, and it took an hour and a half for the numbing to wear off. And by then I was able to get a straw in my mouth and start sucking down the bourbon. So I felt fine, 2 hours after I left the dentist chair. So I don't know, unfortunately, I got to go back in October and do the other half of my mouth. I was surprised. They do half the mouth. It's a deep cleaning. It's what it is, folks. It's nothing fancy. It's a deep cleaning, but they have to numb you up because they get down in under the gums and down to the roots and all that business. So I did half the mouth, and I paid the bill, and then I said, okay, when do I come back to do the other half? Not until October. I said, what the hell? Let's get it done while I'm mentally aware of doing it. But so I got to wait till October and then go back and do it again. So I told him, thank God it's not next October, because I won't be here. I'd be in Europe, because I'm planning on being in Europe, running around with Pete and John and everybody over there and causing trouble all over Europe. It's my plan of attack. Tom says Bruce's group cruise was canceled in February due to the ship delay, but he is to stay with us in Port Canaveral Resort and then in a 2-bedroom aft suite. Nice. Well, I'm sorry that the cruise was canceled. Again, I'm not entirely surprised about that. Pete says, all-inclusive hotel in Ibiza, Spain has an outbreak with 10 staff. Publicity about it. They're moving the guests and say no need to test them. How different that would be if a cruise ship. They say there's no need to test them. Wow, that's strange. But yeah, and that's in Spain. So you got the problem between the British Isles and Spain. I can see where that's would make the news in England. So Sonny asked how many on TWB's group cruise. It's not a group cruise. Oh, the TW that was Bruce's group cruise. I don't know how many people he had, Sonny. I occasionally pop over to check on Bruce, but I don't follow him regularly. I just don't have time to keep up with all that. Pete says, I cannot see MSC sailing in August. Now, MSC had 2 ships, and they were planning on doing a couple cruises out of Italy after the Greek islands opened up, so that they'd have a place to go. And the reason they have not gone further with that, as my understanding, is that Italy still has to approve it, and they have not approved it yet. So we'll have to see what happens. And well, like Pete said, he doubts that it's going to happen in August. We'll have to see. I mean, if they approve it, it's still a possibility over there. But again, it just really depends on how much this last little setback in the industry is going to set us all back. And if it's not much, then great. But I'm afraid it might be. Missed seeing the 3 amigos on Sunday. Yes, Nikki, we apologize for that. My guest, and I was hoping this morning to get a confirmation again for this Sunday, but the guest I had for last Sunday, and I'm just checking to see if it came in while I've been on the air, and it hasn't. I had the executive vice president of sales for Virgin Voyages was going to be my guest, and the PR person contacted me sort of last minute. They had some issues to come up, and it looked like he was going to be really jammed this Sunday. And she asked if there's any way that we could put it off till next Sunday. And I said, well, yeah, of course you can. We're not going to, you're a big plum for us. So sure. So that's why we didn't kind of at the last minute didn't have a guest. And then because the Cruise Amigos, Pete and John and myself, we started that show, and we've tried to keep that show positive and uplifted and a good outlet for all of us that are in the same boat with cruising. And we've tried not to harp on the negative parts of what's been going on in the world. And it's been a formula for success that's worked for us on that show. And we've been getting this tremendous response and tremendous audience to it. This show, my show is more of a news type show where I try to give my opinion and thoughts on the news as it affects travel and cruise industry, good or bad. So there's a little bit difference in attitude on the show. So we talked about it extensively on whether the 3 of us ought to go on and just do a show anyway. So we'd be there on Sunday, and then Pete's thinking was with Hurtigruten, that whole thing happening the day before, that would be very difficult for us to be able to keep a positive, uplifting show. And so we decided that we would just take the day off, and he did a replay of, I think the replay that he put up was with the comedian Stevenson that was a guest some time ago. So we'll be back this week, hopefully with our guy from Virgin Voyages. If not, I'll have a little more time in there to line up another guest, should that be necessary. But I'm hoping that Virgin Voyages will be with us, so because we could talk about a whole bunch of stuff with them. But anyway, that's sorry we weren't there, and glad that somebody noticed it. So Gretchen says the next storm is Josephine. Well, at least the hell I can pronounce Josephine. Thank goodness. All right, so that's the next name storm. A fun trip with Bruce and Jennifer Aniston. Yes, honey. Jennifer Aniston looked like is Bruce's wife. So Emily wants to know how Continental and Charmin are. Man, they were whack jobs all morning this morning, running through the house and up and over and all over the place, and they've disappeared again. So who knows? They're fine. They're growing like weeds. They are getting up close to the day where they go get fixed. So they'll be a little upset with me for a while after that one. But yeah, we want to get that done before the boys get to the point of spraying and stuff in the house. So anyway, so that's coming up soon, in another couple of weeks. So anyway, so that's going to wrap me up for today, folks. Gretchen says, Pete or Chillie, make sure you post the new Zoom code on Chillie's Facebook page. Oh, yeah, for the cocktail party Wednesday. You know what? I haven't checked with Kim out to get the new codes yet. So we need to do that, Pete, if you're paying attention. So we will do that, Gretchen, and get that up. If any of you guys want to join us at our little cocktail party on Wednesday, it's terrific fun. There's a Zoom link that'll be somewhere on my page, and you follow it and join us for cocktails. And Gretchen's been coming, and Emily's usually there, and I'm there, and Pete's there, John's there some of the time. My Scottish ladies are there. That's basically where that's fun started. So feel free to join us on that on Wednesday afternoon. That's at 4:00 my time, which is 9:00 London time. So we do have some fun with that. So anyway, that's going to wrap me up for today, folks. I will see you again on Thursday. If you guys that are still have the storm ahead of you today, be careful and be safe, folks. For the rest of you guys, stay safe and stay as healthy as you can. And hopefully one of these days soon, we'll get back to normal. This is Chillie, the old fat travel guide. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being with me. Later, y'all.
Thank you for watching today's travel and cruise industry news. Join us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for another episode. Travel and Cruise Industry News is a production of Chillie's Cruises.